March 24th, 2:40 p.m. The ground beneath our feet trembled, faint at first, but quickly escalating into a steady rumble. I froze mid-step, the Halligan tool slipping slightly in my grasp. Around me, the others halted as well, their gazes snapping toward the horizon where the forest broke into jagged hills. "What now?" Maria muttered, her voice low and tense. Green's laptop screen glowed faintly as she frantically typed, her face pale with a mix of fear and disbelief. "It's the protocol," she whispered. "They've started it. The first stage." "Explain," Price demanded, her tone sharp but controlled. Her rifle was already raised, scanning the surrounding forest for threats. "Localized seismic events," Green said quickly. "Controlled detonations. They're destabilizing key areas, triggering collapses. It's part of the sweep to eliminate anything and anyone left in this region." "And we're in the middle of it," Calloway said grimly, gripping his weapon tighter. Before anyone could respond, a deafening crack tore through the air. The ground split violently in the distance, sending trees tumbling into a chasm that hadn't existed moments before. Birds erupted from the canopy in a chaotic swarm, their panicked cries blending with the groaning earth. "Move," Price barked. "Head for higher ground." We sprinted, the trembling earth threatening to pull us down with every step. The forest became a blur of motion, branches whipping past as we pushed ourselves to the limit. Behind us, the sound of collapsing terrain grew louder, a relentless roar that chased us like a living thing. We reached a steep incline, the rocky slope jutting upward like a defiant shield against the chaos below. One by one, we climbed, the loose stones threatening to give way underfoot. Green struggled, her breathing ragged as she clutched the laptop to her chest. "Come on," I urged, grabbing her arm and pulling her upward. "We're almost there." Tucker reached the top first, his shotgun slung over his back. He turned, offering a hand to Calloway, who was right behind him. "Get up here now," Tucker shouted over the din. As I hauled Green onto the ledge, the ground below us heaved violently. A section of the slope gave way, sending rocks and debris crashing into the chasm that had opened at its base. Maria barely managed to scramble to safety, her rifle slung across her back. "Keep moving," Price ordered, already scanning the terrain ahead. "This isn't high enough. We need to get clear of the blast zones." The tremors subsided as we reached the top of the ridge, but the sense of danger lingered like a weight on our chests. The view ahead was both a relief and a nightmare. The forest stretched out in jagged patches, but to the north, smoke billowed into the sky, a dark column that marked the destruction Orpheus had unleashed. Green dropped to her knees, her fingers trembling as she typed on the laptop. I'm picking up movement," she said, her voice shaky. "They're sending teams to sweep the area. Drones, vehicles, foot soldiers. It's a full-scale operation." "They're not just clearing the region," Maria said, her voice bitter. "They're hunting us." "Let them come," Tucker growled, his grip tightening on his shotgun. "We've fought worse." Price stepped forward, her expression hard. "We don't have time for a stand." "Green, where's the nearest safe zone?" Green hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keys. "There's an abandoned monitoring station about 5 miles east," she said finally. "It might have supplies, maybe even a way to tap into Orpheus comms." Price nodded. "Then that's where we're going. Double time." The descent from the ridge was harrowing, the unstable ground threatening to give way with every step. We moved as quickly as we dared, the urgency of our situation driving us forward. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid stench of burning vegetation, a constant reminder of the destruction behind us. "Eyes up," Price said, her voice low but firm. "We're exposed here." As if on cue, the faint hum of a drone reached us, its mechanical buzz growing louder as it approached. We scattered instinctively, diving for cover among the rocks and sparse trees. "Stay still," Price hissed, her eyes fixed on the sky. The drone's silhouette appeared above the treetops, its sleek design gleaming in the dim light. It hovered for a moment, its camera sweeping the area before moving on. When it was gone, we regrouped, our breaths heavy with relief. "They're sweeping fast," Maria said. They'll be on us soon. Then we stay ahead of them, Price replied. No more stops. Let's move. The monitoring station came into view just as the sun began to dip lower in the sky. It was a squat, concrete building surrounded by overgrown vegetation. The windows were shattered, and the front door hung off its hinges, but it was intact enough to serve as a temporary refuge. We approached cautiously, weapons drawn. Price motioned for Maria and me to take the lead, our movements slow and deliberate as we entered the building. The interior was dim and cluttered, the air stale with disuse. Clear, Maria said after a moment, lowering her rifle. The others filed in, their expressions grim but relieved. Green immediately set up her laptop on a dusty table, her fingers already flying over the keyboard. If I can access their network from here, she said, I might be able to disrupt their operations, maybe even delay the protocol. Do it, Price said. We'll secure the perimeter. As we worked to fortify the station, the weight of what lay ahead settled over us. The Inferno protocol had begun, and the clock was ticking. Stopping it would mean risking everything, but failure wasn't an option. Not now. Not ever. The engines roared closer, their guttural growl reverberating through the forest like the approach of an unstoppable predator. Price was already at the door, her rifle trained on the faint glow of headlights slicing through the trees. They'll be here in under 2 minutes, she said, her voice razor-sharp. Green, are you done? Almost. Green snapped, her fingers flying over the keyboard. I'm setting a data packet to wipe their deployment servers. It'll buy us time, if we survive. Tucker, Calloway, secure the east window, Price ordered. Maria, you're with me. Hold the entrance. Don't let them pin us down. I moved to Green's side, gripping the Halligan tool so tightly my knuckles turned white. How much longer? A minute. Maybe less. She didn't look up, sweat dripping from her temple as she worked. We don't have a minute, Maria muttered, glancing over her shoulder. They're here. 4:06 p.m. The first armored vehicle burst through the tree line, its reinforced grille plowing through the underbrush. Behind it, 2 more trucks followed, flanked by soldiers in black tactical gear. The squad moved like a well-oiled machine, their weapons raised, their steps methodical. Price didn't hesitate. Her rifle cracked sharply, the first shot punching through the windshield of the lead truck. The driver slumped forward, and the vehicle veered sharply, slamming into a tree. Contact! Maria yelled, opening fire. Her shots forced the soldiers to scatter, seeking cover among the debris. Inside the station, the air was electric with tension. Green's laptop emitted a series of rapid beeps. Done, she shouted. The wipes initiated. We need to move now. Go! Price barked. Maria, Tucker, cover us. I grabbed Green by the arm and pulled her toward the rear exit. The others fell into formation, their weapons blazing as they laid down suppressive fire. The sound of gunfire was deafening, a relentless cacophony that seemed to fill every corner of the station. We burst into the forest, the fading sunlight casting long shadows across the uneven ground. Behind us, the firefight raged on, the soldiers' shouts mixing with the sharp cracks of gunfire. Green stumbled, nearly falling, but I caught her and kept her moving. This way, Price yelled, leading us toward a narrow ravine. The terrain was treacherous, the ground slick with mud and littered with roots that threatened to trip us at every step. I could hear the soldiers pursuing us, their heavy boots pounding against the earth. The ravine offered some cover, its steep walls shielding us from view. But it also felt like a trap, a dead end waiting to happen. Tucker glanced back, his face pale. We're sitting ducks down here. Price's gaze darted around, calculating. Keep moving. We'll find a choke point and hold them off. How many? Maria asked, her voice tight as she reloaded her rifle. Too many, Calloway said grimly. They're bringing everything they have. The forest ahead opened into a narrow pass, its walls climbing steeply on either side. Price halted, her eyes narrowing. This is it. We make our stand here. 4:20 p.m. We took up defensive positions, using the natural cover of the rocks and fallen trees. Green crouched behind a boulder, the laptop still clutched to her chest. I can't fight, she said, her voice shaking. You don't have to, I said, taking a position beside her. Just stay down. The first wave of soldiers entered the pass, their movements cautious. Maria fired first, her rifle cutting through the tension like a lightning strike. The lead soldier fell, and the others scattered, returning fire. Hold the line, Price shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. Bullets ricocheted off the rocks, sparks flying. Tucker's shotgun roared, the blast sending one soldier sprawling. Calloway's precise shots picked off another two, their bodies crumpling into the dirt. The soldiers regrouped, their tactics shifting. Smoke grenades arced through the air, their canisters hissing as they released thick plumes that swallowed the pass. Visibility dropped to almost nothing, the world reduced to shadows and muffled sounds. Stay low, Price ordered. I tightened my grip on the Halligan tool, my heart hammering in my chest. A shadow loomed out of the smoke, and I swung instinctively. The impact was solid, the soldier collapsing with a grunt. They're flanking us, Maria shouted. Hold your positions, Price yelled back. The fight devolved into chaos, the smoke turning the battlefield into a maze of echoes and silhouettes. Every step felt like a gamble, every movement a potential death sentence. A sudden explosion lit up the pass, the shockwave throwing me to the ground. My ears rang as I scrambled to my feet, my vision swimming. In the chaos, I saw Price pulling Green to her feet, her expression fierce. Fall back, Price shouted. We can't hold this position. We retreated, our movements frantic but coordinated. The soldiers pressed their advantage, their relentless pursuit driving us deeper into the forest. But even as we fled, a grim determination settled over me. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The forest closed in around us as we ran, its dense canopy blotting out what little light remained. The sound of pursuit, the heavy crunch of boots, the crackle of radios, and the distant hum of drones, pressed against us like a living thing. My breath came in ragged gasps, my legs burning with the effort to keep moving. Price led the way, her movements sharp and deliberate as she guided us through the labyrinth of trees. Maria covered our rear, her rifle sweeping in tight arcs as she scanned for threats. Green stumbled beside me, clutching the laptop like it was her lifeline. Tucker and Calloway flanked us, their weapons ready as they exchanged quick glances of determination. We need to make a stand, Tucker said between breaths. We can't outrun them forever. Not here, Price replied without looking back. The terrain's too exposed. We need an advantage. How about an ambush? Maria suggested, her voice tight. We've got enough firepower to hit them hard and keep moving. It's risky, Price said, pausing for a moment to survey the area. Her eyes scanned the ground, the trees, the angles of escape. But it might be our best shot. We reached a narrow ravine, its steep walls offering natural cover. Price motioned for us to stop, her hand raised as she crouched low. Here, she said. We'll funnel them into the choke point. Maria, Tucker, take positions on the left ridge. Calloway, you're with me on the right. Green, stay in the center. You're the priority. What about me? I asked, gripping the Halligan tool tightly. Price glanced at me, her expression unreadable. You're with Green. Protect her at all costs. The plan was simple, but the stakes were enormous. If we could hit the pursuers hard enough, we'd buy ourselves time to escape. If we failed, there wouldn't be a second chance. The first of the soldiers appeared at the mouth of the ravine, their black tactical gear blending with the shadows. They moved cautiously, their rifles raised, their eyes scanning the terrain. Behind them, the faint hum of a drone signaled the arrival of reinforcements. Price raised her hand, signaling us to hold. Every second stretched into an eternity as we waited, the tension palpable. Then, as the lead soldier stepped into the kill zone, Price dropped her hand. Maria fired first, her shot taking down the lead soldier with surgical precision. Tucker followed, his shotgun roaring as he unleashed a devastating blast that sent the second soldier sprawling. Chaos erupted as the rest of the squad scrambled for cover, their formation breaking apart. Keep firing, Price shouted, her voice cutting through the din. Calloway's rifle cracked, each shot deliberate and deadly. Maria and Tucker rained fire from the left ridge, their positions concealed by the dense underbrush. The soldiers' return fire was scattered, their movements panicked as they tried to regroup. The drone appeared above us, its camera swiveling as it locked onto our positions. Green's laptop emitted a sharp beep, and she cursed under her breath. "They've got our coordinates," she said. "They're calling in reinforcements. Take it down," Price yelled. I swung the Halligan tool with all my strength, striking the drone as it descended. The impact sent it spiraling into the ground, its frame crumpling on impact. Sparks danced across the dirt as it sputtered and died. "Nice hit," Maria called, reloading her rifle. The soldiers began to retreat, their movements hasty as they fell back into the forest. Price didn't let up, her rifle spitting fire as she pressed the attack. "Push them back," she ordered. "Don't give them time to recover." The ambush ended as abruptly as it began. The soldiers were gone, their retreat marked by the faint rustle of branches and the fading sound of engines. The ravine was silent once more, save for the heavy breathing of our group. "Everyone okay?" Price asked, her gaze sweeping over us. "All clear," Maria said, though her hands trembled as she reloaded her rifle. Tucker nodded, his face pale but determined. "We bought ourselves time, but they'll be back." "Then we keep moving," Price said. She turned to Green. "What's next?" Green hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "There's another site nearby, a relay station. If we can reach it, I might be able to shut down their surveillance grid." Price nodded. "Then that's where we're going. Everyone, pack up. We leave in 5. As we prepared to move, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Inferno Protocol wasn't just a plan. It was a war, and we were fighting it one desperate step at a time. 5:20 p.m. The forest had grown quiet again, save for the rhythmic crunch of our boots on the soft earth. The adrenaline that had propelled us through the ambush was beginning to fade, replaced by an all-encompassing weariness. Even Price, usually unshakable, moved with a stiffness that betrayed her exhaustion. We found a shallow cave tucked into the side of a rocky hill, its entrance partially obscured by hanging vines and moss. Price motioned for us to stop, her sharp gaze scanning the surroundings before she stepped inside. "Clear," she announced after a moment. "We'll rest here. No fires, no noise. Tucker, Maria, set up a perimeter. Calloway, check the gear. Green, you're on comms. Let's move." The group dispersed, each of us carrying out our assigned tasks with mechanical precision. The cave was small, but offered enough room for all of us to sit and take a moment to breathe. Green immediately set up her laptop on a flat rock, her fingers moving sluggishly as she worked. "How's it looking?" I asked, crouching beside her. She shook her head, her eyes fixed on the screen. "The system's in chaos after the wipe. They're scrambling to recover, but it's only a matter of time before they're back online. We need to hit that relay station before they can fully regroup." "Can it wait until morning?" Tucker asked as he returned from setting up motion sensors outside the cave. "We're running on fumes here." Price frowned, glancing at Green. "How long do we have?" Green hesitated. "Maybe 6 hours. 8, if we're lucky. After that, they'll start locking us out of every network in the region." "Then we move at first light," Price decided. "Rest while you can. We'll need every ounce of strength we've got." The tension in the cave began to ease as we settled in. Maria leaned against the wall, her rifle resting on her lap. Tucker rummaged through his pack, producing a crumpled protein bar that he tore in half and offered to Calloway. Even Price allowed herself a moment to sit, her back against the cool stone. "Remember when our biggest worry was a clogged hose at the fire station?" I said, breaking the silence. My attempt at humor felt weak, but it earned a faint smile from Maria. "Yeah," she said. "Back when we thought long shifts were the worst thing we'd have to endure." Tucker snorted. "I'd take 100 clogged hoses over this any day." "At least we're still here," Calloway said quietly. His words hung in the air, a stark reminder of those who hadn't made it this far. As night began to fall, the cave grew darker, the shadows deepening around us. Price checked her watch, then nodded toward Maria and Tucker. "You two take first watch. Rotate every 2 hours. Wake me if anything seems off. Maria nodded, already moving toward the entrance. Tucker followed, his shotgun slung over his shoulder. Get some sleep, Price said to the rest of us. We'll need it. I leaned back against the cool stone, my muscles aching as I let myself relax for the first time in what felt like days. The faint sound of Green's typing was oddly comforting, a sign that someone was still fighting, even in our moments of quiet. 10 p.m. I woke to the sound of hushed voices. Price and Maria stood near the cave entrance, their silhouettes outlined by the faint moonlight. I couldn't make out their words, but their tense postures told me all I needed to know. Something was wrong. What is it? I asked, sitting up. Price turned, her expression grim. Motion sensors tripped about 10 minutes ago. Could be wildlife. Could be them. Maria nodded. We haven't seen anything yet, but it's better to be safe than sorry. The rest of the group stirred, the tension in the air palpable. Green closed her laptop and packed it away, her movements quick and efficient. Tucker checked his shotgun, his jaw set as he prepared for the worst. We move now, Price said. The relay station's our only shot. If they found us, we'll make them regret it. Let's go. We slipped out of the cave and into the forest, the night air cool against my skin. The darkness was both a blessing and a curse, concealing us as much as it concealed whatever might be out there. The group moved in silence, each of us hyper-aware of every sound, every shadow. The brief respite was over, and as we pushed forward, the weight of what lay ahead settled heavily on my shoulders. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. March 25th, 12:30 a.m. The faint outline of the relay station emerged through the dense forest, its dark, rectangular structure barely visible against the moonlit sky. The building stood isolated, surrounded by overgrown brush and patches of broken fencing. Its silence was unnerving, a sharp contrast to the chaos we had left behind. There it is, Green whispered, her voice tinged with both relief and trepidation. She clutched her laptop tightly as if it were a shield. Price raised a hand, signaling for us to halt. She crouched low, her rifle scanning the area. Stay sharp. Just because it looks quiet doesn't mean it is. We moved forward cautiously, every step deliberate and measured. The building's rusted door groaned as Price pushed it open, the sound echoing into the still night. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with dust and the faint metallic tang of old machinery. The room we entered was small and dimly lit by the moonlight filtering through cracked windows. Broken chairs and scattered papers hinted at its abandonment. Clear, Maria said after sweeping her rifle across the room. Let's secure the perimeter, Price ordered. Tucker, Calloway, check the north and east sides. Maria and I will cover the south and west. Green, set up inside. You've got 10 minutes. On it, Green said, already moving toward a battered desk in the corner. I stayed with Green as the others dispersed, the tension in the room almost suffocating. She placed the laptop on the desk, her hands trembling slightly as she powered it on. The glow of the screen illuminated her determined expression as she began typing. This place feels wrong, I said, my voice low. The silence around us felt oppressive, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Green didn't look up. It's not wrong. It's forgotten. And forgotten can be good. The others returned, their movements cautious but less hurried. Perimeter's clear, Price announced. No signs of activity, at least for now. Maria dropped her pack on the floor and leaned against the wall, her exhaustion finally breaking through her guarded demeanor. This place might be a dump, but it's a roof over our heads. And 4 walls, Tucker added, lowering himself onto a crate with a groan. I'll take it. Don't get too comfortable, Price warned. We're not out of the woods yet. 1 a.m. We settled into a fragile rhythm. Tucker and Calloway took first watch, their positions by the windows offering a clear view of the surrounding forest. Maria worked on cleaning her rifle, her movements methodical and precise. Price sat by the door, her rifle across her lap, her eyes unblinking as she listened for any sound beyond the building's thin walls. Green's fingers flew over the keyboard, her focus unbroken as lines of code scrolled across the screen. She muttered to herself occasionally, her voice a mixture of frustration and concentration. I sat beside her, the Halligan tool resting across my knees. My muscles ached, and the weight of exhaustion pressed heavily on me, but sleep felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Any progress? I asked quietly. Some, Green replied, not looking away from the screen. The relay station systems are old, but that makes them harder to crack. It's like trying to pick a lock with a toothpick. Think you can do it? She paused, her fingers hovering over the keys. I don't have a choice. The atmosphere inside the station grew heavier as the hours stretched on. The stillness was both a comfort and a source of anxiety, the lack of immediate threats allowing us to rest but leaving us with too much time to think. Maria finished cleaning her rifle and leaned back against the wall, her eyes closing briefly. Feels like we're always running, she said softly. Always one step ahead of something worse. That's because we are, Price said. Her tone was even, but there was a weight behind her words. And as long as we're alive, we keep running, keep fighting. Tucker chuckled dryly from his position by the window. That's an uplifting thought. It's reality, Price replied. The sooner you accept that, the better. Green let out a triumphant sound, breaking the tension. I'm in, she announced, her voice loud in the quiet room. Price was beside her in an instant. What do you have? Green pointed to the screen, where a map flickered to life. This relay station isn't just a network hub. It's connected to other facilities, bunkers, labs, even safe zones. If we can maintain access, we might be able to disrupt their entire operation. And the safe zones? Maria asked, her tone sharp. Are they viable? Green nodded. Looks like it, but they're heavily guarded. If we want to use one, we'll have to fight our way in. Then we plan for that, Price said. She straightened, her gaze sweeping over the group. For now, we rest. Tomorrow, we move. The weight of her words settled over us as we prepared for another night on the edge of survival. But for the first time in days, there was a glimmer of hope, a path forward, however fraught with danger it might be. 6 a.m. The first light of dawn filtered through the cracked windows of the relay station, painting the room in shades of gray. The group stirred slowly, their movements sluggish but purposeful. Sleep had been brief and uneasy, the constant threat of discovery lingering like a shadow over their rest. Price stood by the door, her gaze fixed on the forest beyond. She was already in full gear, her rifle slung across her chest. Everyone up, she said, her voice low but firm. We move in 30. What's the plan? Maria asked as she stretched, her rifle leaning against the wall beside her. Green looked up from her laptop, the glow of the screen casting an eerie light on her face. The nearest safe zone is about 10 miles northwest. It's marked as operational, but that could mean anything. We should assume it's occupied. Occupied by who? Tucker asked, adjusting the strap of his shotgun. Could be survivors, Green replied. Could be Orpheus. Price nodded. Either way, we're heading there. We need a defensible location and supplies. This relay station won't hold if they find us. Maria grunted. 10 miles through hostile territory. Sounds like fun. The group departed the relay station under the cover of the early morning mist. The forest was quiet, save for the occasional chirp of birds and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. It was a deceptive peace, one that did little to ease the tension coiled in their bodies. Price led the way, her rifle at the ready. Maria followed closely, her sharp eyes scanning the surroundings. Green walked beside me, her laptop secured in her pack, her expression a mix of determination and fatigue. Tucker and Calloway brought up the rear, their weapons ready to respond to any threat. Keep it tight, Price whispered. Noise discipline. Eyes open. The group moved in silence, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth. Every crack of a branch or distant rustle set their nerves on edge. The journey was slow, the dense forest forcing them to navigate carefully around natural obstacles. The first sign of trouble came as they crossed a shallow stream. Maria halted abruptly, raising a fist to signal the group to stop. She crouched low, her gaze fixed on the bank ahead. Tracks, she murmured. Fresh. Human. Price joined her, examining the prints. At least 3 individuals. Armed, judging by the spacing and depth. They passed through here recently. Think they're heading for the safe zone? I asked. Price's expression darkened. Could be. Or they could be looking for us. Either way, we need to stay ahead of them. What if they're friendly? Green asked, her voice uncertain. We don't take chances, Price said firmly. Not until we know for sure. 9:30 a.m. The forest began to thin, giving way to rolling hills dotted with patches of tall grass. The open terrain was both a relief and a risk. The group moved quickly, their pace increasing as they covered the exposed ground. The sun was higher now, its warmth cutting through the morning chill. How much farther? Tucker asked, his voice strained. Green checked her map. Another 3 miles, give or take. The safe zone should be just beyond that ridge. Price nodded. We'll rest when we get there. Keep moving. The safe zone came into view as they crested the ridge. It was a small compound, surrounded by a high chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. Several buildings stood within, their windows boarded up. A watchtower rose above the fence, but it was unmanned. The gate hung slightly ajar, swaying gently in the breeze. Looks deserted, Maria said, her voice low. Or it's a trap, Price replied. Stay sharp. The group approached cautiously, their weapons raised. Price motioned for Tucker and Maria to flank the gate while she and I moved forward. Green stayed behind with Calloway, her laptop ready in case they needed to access any systems inside. The gate creaked as Price pushed it open, the sound loud in the still air. We entered slowly, our eyes scanning every corner of the compound. The buildings were silent, their shadows stretching across the cracked pavement. Clear the perimeter, Price ordered. Maria, Tucker, check the main building. Calloway, Green, secure the secondary structures. Let's move. By the time the group regrouped in the main building, it was clear the safe zone had been abandoned for some time. The rooms were dusty and cluttered with remnants of a hurried departure. Empty supply crates, overturned chairs, and scattered papers. Looks like whoever was here left in a hurry, Maria said, examining a set of empty gun racks. Green sat at an old terminal, the screen flickering as she tried to access the system. The network's still functional, she said. I might be able to pull some data on what happened here. Price nodded. Do it. The rest of you, check for anything useful. Weapons, food, medical supplies. We'll need everything we can get. 12 p.m. The group gathered in what had once been a briefing room, their findings spread out on the table. A few cans of food, a med kit with limited supplies, and a small stash of ammunition were all they had managed to salvage. It's not much, Tucker said, his frustration evident. It'll have to do, Price replied. She turned to Green. Anything on the network? Green nodded, her expression grim. This zone was overrun 3 weeks ago. The survivors tried to hold out, but they were outnumbered. They abandoned the site and moved west to another safe zone. West, Price repeated, her gaze distant. That puts them closer to Orpheus territory. What now? Maria asked. Price looked around at the group, her expression firm. We regroup, we rest, and then we find out if that other safe zone is still standing.